not the most relaxing vacation. My
somebody
opinion,
different.
it's under 8, but holy smokes.
Okay, we're going to call our meeting to order. Let the minutes reflect all members are here. And the first thing today is to set the agenda. Anybody to add or subtract from the agenda today? Anybody?
Staff have no
No changes?
adjustments. President
Okay,
Schmidt.
then we'll have a motion.
I move approval of the agenda.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Approval of the minutes.
Madam President, I move approval of the August 8th, 2022 Rice Creek Watershed District Manager Workshop minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye. And Madam President, I move approval of the August 10th, 2022 Rice Creek Board of Managers regular meeting minutes.
And I will second that also.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next thing is consent agenda.
President Pryor, Board Managers, a quick administrative change on page 15 of the packet. That will be for application 22-054. Give everyone a moment there. It's about halfway through the page under site size. I just want to make a correction where it lists existing and proposed impervious areas. That should be 7.20 acres and 5.00 acres, respectively. Want me to do it one more time? So again, on page 15, application 22-054, near the halfway through the page or so, under site size, the existing and proposed impervious surfaces, that would be changed to 7.20 acres and 5.00 acres.
Okay, any other changes?
That's all.
All right. With that change, we'll have a motion.
Madam President, I move to Cap Rock permit number 22-054 and 22-065 with changes.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and recess our regular meeting and go to our public hearing. So we'll call to order our public hearing, the Rice Creek Watershed District's proposed 2023 budget and levy, including the watershed-wide property tax levy and special levies for the Ramsey County Ditch 4 Water Management District and Anoka County Ditch 4, County Ditch 5362 Water Management District, known as WMDs. The purpose of the hearing is to hear comments and take input from parties having an interest in the proposed 2023 budget and levy. The levy will include property tax levy on all properties located within the watershed district. It will also include additional special levies on two-year management districts, the Ramsey County Ditch 4 WMD and the Anoka County Ditch 5362 WMD. Members of the public participating remotely are asked to remain muted until I call for public comment. I will solicit comments from remote participants individually. When I call your name and address, unmute your microphones, speak clearly and state your name and address for the record, and then make your comment. Right, now I will ask Administrator Tomczyk to provide a summary of the 2023 budget and levy impacts, as well as the individual water management district and levies.
Thank you, President Pryor. Board of Managers, good morning. I'll point out in your packets the proper noticing of the public hearing on your budget. That is on page 28. On page 29 of the packet, you'll find the district's budget spreadsheet comprised of the various funds and the proposed budget amounts. It's also on our screen being shared right now. Page 30 of the packet, you'll find the estimation of allotments for the 2023 funds and some proposed fund transfers. That's what we'll be covering today. You'll recall at our workshop, we had a discussion about adding clarity in what comprises the various allotments of the district and the district's attentiveness both to the near term and long term. And I'll point those out, as well as the WMDs were adjusted for the revenue. So you may see a difference in the fund balance spending from this and the one you saw at the workshop. But with that, we'll move into the proposed budget. Again, it's on the screen here. I'll run through each of the funds. Proposed for 2023, the district budget includes the basis of all operations for the district, its managers, the district staff, the office space, and similar items. This is Fund 10. This is the general fund. You'll see it as kind of a salmon colored on the screen, and that is subject to our 40% cash flow reserve policy. That's the one that we've historically had and remains in play. Next, we have Fund 30, which is communications and outreach. That is our partnerships with organizations, MRAP, Washington Conservation District, Watershed Partners. Also supports the training of citizens with significant interest through the Minnesota Water Stewards Program, communicating and partnering on the district's policy positions. It is also engineering and technical support in communications, engineering, maps, and similar items. Also includes watershed management plan amendments, maintaining a working document for the district. In there you'll see the color blue for the 40%. So that is the program implementation administrative cash flow reserve. These blue segments in each of them also include the new positions that we've discussed and the office-related expenses and the human resource work that the district entered into contract on. The next item is Fund 35, which is managing the fundamental district information. This is the district's boundary management, continuation of the boundary work in Ramsey County, the district-wide model that we have, updates to that model, model conversion, flood study work, also your MS Forefront database, which you entered into, your drainage database, the GIS viewer, and the maintenance to that. We want to keep those items current and relevant. The district website, its update and maintenance there. Again, this has the 40% cash flow reserve. Next is Fund 60. This is restoration projects, management and planning. This includes things like the Anoka-Chena Lakes projects, including further investigation of Centerville Lake, matching fund for the City of Fridley's Moore Lake Water Quality Project and other work in Lower Rice Creek, potential Anoka-Ramsey Judicial Ditch 1 Iron Enhanced Sand Filter, investigation of Ramsey Washington Judicial Ditch 1 ponds, also an investigation of Bald Eagle Lake, Elm Booster, planned development for Ramsey County ditches 2, 3, and 5 projects at Hanson Park and Silver Lake. Continue with our floodplain resiliency project, stormwater management cost share, which is your grant program with municipal partners. That includes district engineer review of those things and a further catalyst in advancing resource work. Includes Clear Lake Shoreline Corridor project development, planning and regional water management with partners such as Columbus on ACD 15, master planning, project development of critical or hot spots in stormwater areas, coordination with municipalities on their capital improvement plans, continued support of study and planning for stormwater reuse. Within that fund, Fund 60, you will see the color purple. These are your water management districts. These may only be used for the purpose for which they were established. You also see the color blue again. That's the 40% cash flow reserve. And then one colored orange. These are the committed funds where the board action in awarding the funds to grant applicants. Moving on to Fund 70, managing and developing and redeveloping the landscape through regulation. This includes connecting with landowners on their project, pre-project coordination, reviewing plans and such, review the implementation of the revised permit application fee structure as planned in the coming year, which we approved this year. Site inspection of the district-issued permits and contracting with 2 of our county conservation districts for a portion of those inspections. This fund as well has the 40% cash flow reserve. Moving on to Fund 80, drainage system and creek maintenance. This is implementation as needed of your natural channel maintenance policy, public drainage system, ongoing general maintenance, beaver dams, mowing, and similar. Repair reports and studies for public drainage system, Anoka Washington Judicial Ditch 3, Clearwater Creek, continued efforts on Anoka County Ditch 102232, partnering, contracting with municipalities interested in public drainage maintenance efforts. Anoka Washington Judicial Ditch 3 repair of the system's branches 1, 2, and 4. Anoka County Ditch 5362 main trunk repair. And in this Fund 80, you'll see the colored purple. Again, for these are WMDs, Water Management Districts. Again, those funds may only be used for the purpose for which they were established. The color blue, again, for the 40% of cash flow reserve, as well as orange for the committed funds of the grant applications. Moving on to Fund 90, Lake and Stream Management. Within this fund for 2023, we will see continued work to reduce common carp population and their impacts to water quality. Continued work managing curly leaf pondweed, working with lake associations, monitoring and management of the district's surface waters. This is fundamental in understanding the district's waters, as well as very important in seeking outside support and grants. We recognize the citizen interest in supporting them through the Water Quality Grant Program. This program utilizes the CAC, Citizen Advisory Committee, for their initial consideration and recommendations to the board. Within that fund, you'll see once again the color blue for the 40% cash flow reserve, as well as the color orange for the committed funds of the grant applicants or grant awards. Next fund, District Facilities, Fund 95. This is for the inspection, operation, and maintenance of district facilities. This would be tilling of your iron enhanced sand filter beds, pumps, electronic controls, and similar. Any necessary repair of those facilities that's beyond maintenance. Ramsey, Washington, Judicial Ditch 1 ponds, similar to our Privy Lake outlet system and our partnership with the communities there. And our grant award project commitments when the district receives a grant and is obligated to maintain those systems. This fund as well has the 40% cash flow reserve for administrative items. And then the budget includes establishment of Fund 99, the Project Anticipation Fund. You should think of this as the future savings, something the district has been doing for multiple years for its future projects. Within there, we recognize the various existing funds that typically support projects, your Funds 60, 80, 90, and 95. We assess what projects are anticipated in the future, estimate a project cost. There's no funds in that in the current spreadsheet on the screen because we are establishing it, and with the budget, we'll transfer funds into those. In the future years, you could levy directly into this or include additional transfers. With that, the total proposed expenditures are $8,344,087 for 2023. Total revenue for 2023 is projected at $6,190,431, of which $5,745,009 is from watershed-wide general property tax levy. The district's average 10-year levy increase is less than 3%. and that's for the entire district in its 4 counties. The remainder of the revenue comes from the water management districts, the fees, the grants we receive, investment income, and use of the district's fund balance. The district's intended fund balance use for 2023 is $2,153,656. We've estimated the property tax rate for 2023. It's not available at this time, but we can estimate it. It's likely to be moderate due to the 4.6% rise in taxable market value of property, and that's against a 5.25% increase in the levy. The 2023 property tax impact on $200,000 of property value in the Rice Creek area is estimated at around $36 per year. Water management districts. Ramsey, as far as revenue, Ramsey County Ditch 4 Water Management District intends a total collection in 2023 of $98,591. That's comprised of $74,647 in levied charges, $23,944 in right-of-way direct billing. Anoka County Ditch 5362 Water Management District intends a total collection of charges in 2023 of $32,406. It's comprised of $26,782 in levied charges and $5,624 in right-of-way direct billing. On page 30, the estimation of fund balance. Take a pause here as we bring it up on the screen. These are the various colored categories reviewed in the budget, and its total, and the various totals. And it's a reference to next year's budget. You see the closing date, 12/31/2023 on those. The first two, fund balance cash flow operating reserve, the required 40% general fund, that's historically what your fund balance policy stated. The proposed one increases to include that blue, which is the 40% of the implementation administration account. Restricted fund balance, again, that's your WMDs, currently showing a negative $122,000. That's because the district fronts the money and defers the payment of that until the time of development. Committed fund balance, again, that's your grant awards or agreements that you enter into on the management of the public drainage system with municipalities. The program project anticipation fund, that's the intended transfer, which would be $4,500,000. And the assigned fund balance is the remaining amount that would be in each of the funds as we move through time. This is a living system, if you will, our finances, so it is a snapshot in time. It hasn't been audited. We use the best information available to comprise it. At the workshop, we made a note of the 509 fund and what exactly did that mean. So the general fund, that's our Fund 10, and then all the other portions are 509, which is actually implementation funding for the programs and projects of the district. 509 was the term used in the original legislation. It's antiquated, it's not used anymore. So we're calling it the implementation fund, which is its intended purpose. With that, I will turn it back to President Preiner for any public comment.
Okay, thank you, Nick. So we will go to public comment, seeing none in our meeting room. I'd like to ask if there's anybody online that would like to speak today or ask questions. And if so, please undo your microphone and make sure to give us your name, phone number, or any other information you'd like us to know. So please go ahead. Brian? Comments? I don't know when. Anybody online that would like to ask questions today? Make comments? Anybody online? Hearing none, we will go ahead and close our public hearing portion and move on to our regular meeting. Okay, so the first thing we have is open mic. Is anybody in the audience that'd like to speak today? Anybody here or in the audience? Hearing none, we can always go to it later if somebody arrives. Otherwise, we will go to the fund balance. Nick, page 34.
Madam President, I can raise all my questions in this component, but when are we going to talk about what was just presented?
We are going to talk about it. Nick, go ahead. We had talked about it.
Yeah, President Pryor, Board of Managers, we can definitely put this on the September workshop.
No.
Yeah.
My questions all relate to the fund balance issues as shown on the chart that we just.
Items for action. Isn't that fund balance? Number one. Policy.
Fund balance. The first policy be yes.
All right. I'll raise all my questions in the relationship to the fund balance policy.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Madam President, I also had questions, so thank you for bringing that up, Manager Bradley. But I
Absolutely.
assumed it was going to be
Under the fund balance.
balance since the hearing ended.
Right.
Oh, the public hearing.
The public hearing.
And that's
The
usually-
discussion's yet to come.
Usually we're allowed to talk only after the public.
Public hearing, yeah.
Yes. Okay, let's go with Nick.
Yeah, President Pryor, Board of Managers, so the fund balance policy, we discussed this at our workshop. We had three specific items that were raised for incorporation into the policy. Staff has done that. Sounds like there's a number of questions, and so let us hear them. The fund balance policy as drafted is on page 36 of the packet.
Madam President,
Go ahead.
the first one is clarify or understand fully the difference between committed and restricted. And I look at page 29, which has where we've used those terms, and I look at the definitions of those, and if I understand it, committed funds are restricted funds, but that we as a board can reorganize someplace else, whereas restricted funds are like WMDs. They can only be used for the purpose for which they were originally collected. So for example, while we have a contract, the municipal PDS maintenance, formerly Hugo Ditch Maintenance, which is Fund 80, Subfund 15, we've committed by contract to pay $50,000 to Hugo. And we could reorganize that, recontract that or whatever, versus a WMD fund, we have to pay that within that WMD purpose.
Yes. President Pryor, Manager Bradley, you are correct. I'll reflect back what I heard you say and confirm that we're on the same page. Restricted funds are indeed the water management district funds. Those are statutorily based in their development and must be used for that purpose. So we use the engineer's estimate to proceed with the amount of the project. If there are any, if we come up short, the district's going to pay through that, through the ad valorem funds. If there's excess funds, we must use them on the ditch system, which is the majority of what those WMDs are. There's one for Bald Eagle Lake. But we need to spend those dollars on those items. You're correct that the committed funds have a little bit more flexibility, shall we say.
The water quality grant program is probably a better example than the Hugo contract, maybe, but
Right, it's where the board has taken an action and committed funds. What may happen is if the project isn't undertaken or comes in at a different amount, you want the flexibility to reassign those funds to other items, which you can do.
we have not yet committed any funds for the 2023 water quality grant program. Doesn't that occur end of the year?
Correct. There's two items in regards to your grants. You're anticipating for 2023 what previously awarded projects may be completed, and you'll pay those out. So we include that number in the proposed budget. It also includes the anticipation of applications that you'll award in the current year. Similarly, for the public drainage system municipal partners and maintenance on the system, we're anticipating that we may enter into agreement with them as we have in the past with Hugo, and we're now working with, looking at Blaine, Anoka County on some of its outfalls, and Mounds View has also taken an interest, but we do not have contracts at this time.
So similarly with the stormwater management cost share, which is at Fund 60, line 15, Subfund 15, I guess, we're showing committed $785,000. In fact, we've not yet committed that, but we expect to commit that. This is back on page 29, Fund 60, Subfund 15, if I'm using that term correctly.
60 subfund, I'm sorry?
15, stormwater
15.
management cost share, we got $785,000.
Correct.
Trying to determine whether or not we have currently committed that, or if that's something we're going to expect to commit.
President Priner, Manager Bradley, correct. It is both. It is the past year's amounts that you've awarded but haven't been
Haven't
paid
paid.
out, right? Those
Okay.
individuals haven't submitted the necessary documentation to receive the funds, and you run the program annually, 300,000 plus engineering costs to review those. So those are combined in that budget number. And this is one of the spots where you're pulling fund balance to cover the historic awards, because you've already levied for that portion of it.
Okay. And now comes the big hole in my understanding, anticipation fund, which on the page, bottom of page 29 shows 0, and on your chart, you show me 4.5 million.
Yeah,
How do I balance that out? How do I understand that?
yes. So the fund balance policy,
And by the way, anticipation fund is not on the fund balance policy either, so.
yeah. So, it is, but not directly by that name. So President Priner and Board of Managers, the general fund balance policy does a number of things, but I'll get right to the page 37, right above definitions. Fund balance reserve, as defined under this policy, is not intended to accumulate funds for future capital project, capital maintenance or replacement, or program spending. For that purpose, the Board of Managers may establish a project anticipation or similar subfund within the implementation fund and commit funds to that subfund on the basis of findings as to the potential future need for those funds. Long story short, this policy allows you to set up your funds, which of course we've done over time, and this is another one that's being added to it. But so we create the fund in the budget, and then on the page 30, the lower table shows the transfer of funds from your various other funds into the project anticipation fund.
Yeah, let me take a very specific example. It's my understanding that we currently have an anticipation fund, using that term, for Lock Lake of about $500,000. Where in our budget do I find that?
in the project anticipation fund, the savings that the district has noted, there's three areas that are coming to mind. They're the Lock Lake, Long Lake, and RCD, Ramsey County Ditch 235. We had looked at saving dollars for future projects in those locations.
So if our purpose of all of this fund allocation purpose was to let the public understand that we weren't arbitrarily collecting money and putting it aside, should we not have somewhere where we can say, this is the money we've collected in the past and are holding in anticipation at this time for future expenditure, such as the three projects you just mentioned?
Yes, and I would say that is done through Fund 99. And so that those,
But I'm seeing zero.
right, because the budget 2023 establishes the fund, but the board action of approving it also would approve the transfer of dollars into the fund. First, we have to make the bucket, then we have to put the dollars in it.
So I would argue that in order to do that, we need to have here what we're intending to do, which is how much money we intend to put in each of those funds when we establish this budget, so that I know and everyone else knows where that $4.5 million is.
Well, that will though, won't it? At the time,
Why wouldn't we, this is all anticipation. Every dollar here is anticipation until we approve it. So if we're anticipating doing that, why would we not forecast that?
Because we had to have the fund first, as I think I understand.
I-
Go ahead.
President Priner, I'll note that Mr. Otterness might have some insight that will help clarify it.
Yeah, and
Doesn't
Madam
look like an
President,
accountant.
I think maybe the difference is that if we look at page 29, these are anticipated expenditures for the, for 2023, which we wouldn't be anticipating expenditures for any of those anticipated funds. Rather, that's accounted for on page 30, the next page, where it lists the fund transfers, and that's the distinction, is that we're looking at, you know, the 30 deals with the a fund balance, whereas 29 deals with only 2023 expenditures.
Then and that is the best answer I came up with myself. So then my thought is that we ought to have some sort of place here which takes that page 30 and breaks that $4.5 million out as what that
Yeah,
consists of.
yes. Beyond the, I can share that with you. It sounds as though you would like it within the budget,
I'd
other
like
than,
some place where, when we're trying to explain what we're doing, we can go to one page. Oh, here's that $4.5 million of anticipation funds and what we've collected them for in
Sure.
anticipation,
yeah,
not commitment,
President.
not
Priner.
restricted.
Manager Bradley, so on page 29 in the various funds at the bottom, 99, just for the record and for better understanding, so 9960 would have $2.7 million. 9980 would have boy, that's small print.
So would there be some place on this chart where it would make sense to put the fund balance in here? Current fund balance? Or anticipated fund balance for 2023?
isn't
So
it
this
gonna
is
look doubled up
expenses,
though?
and this is
If you
the-
have them in both
Well,
places,
it
you're
would be,
gonna
it'd
look.
have to be yet another column,
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
exactly. If you were gonna do that, it'd have to be a
The
separate.
whole purpose of this, I thought, this wonderful exercise, was to explain to people why we've got such a large fund balance. And
Yes.
then we get all through it, and we haven't done it.
Yeah. So was, Manager Bradley, was my comment about the amount in each of the line items helpful? Okay.
Yes,
So
but
I'll,
we don't, but nobody knows that but you.
in,
Go ahead and finish, Nick, and then we'll go to
yeah,
John.
yeah. So 2.7 in the, bear with me. In 8060 restoration proposed anticipation, ditch and creek proposed anticipation projects, that's 1.4 million. Lake and stream anticipation project, that's $200,000, and district facilities, that's $200,000 there.
So being a simple kind of guy, I would, simply adding behind each of one of those, a bracket for restoration project of FD 2,700,000, $2.7 million. Is that fund balance current, or is that the end of the year?
That's the end of the year.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, but I'm just saying, somewhere in here, because there's no indication that, that's where all the money is.
Right.
President Priner, Board of Managers, historically, you haven't disclosed or showed the
I know,
fund
but
balance.
the whole
And
reason we're doing this is because we want to
to
do
share
that.
where it is, right. So I think we could do that one of two ways, since the front table on page 29 isn't necessarily set up because we don't intend to spend those dollars. It's not budgeted expenditures. It's just the money's in reserve, and what, the reason that you're keeping them, we could add a table, like I just referenced, to the bottom of page 30.
Yep,
Yeah.
somewhere.
I noted eye contact with Kyle Axtell. I'm wondering if you'd like to add something about that. Kyle and I worked together on the spreadsheets. Is there something, excuse me, President Priner, if you'll allow it?
Yeah, Madam President, board members, again, the two things are crossing my mind regarding the project anticipation fund and where those go. There is a list of projects that's been discussed with the board, I understand, at a previous workshop back in the spring, which is what generates where that project anticipation need is. I think it's something like $15 million worth of work. So the $4.5 million doesn't even cover all of that.
No, but the $4.5 million is what we've collected to date.
Correct, and so I think it'd be more, but we also don't, some of those projects, we don't know when they're gonna go. So to assign a specific dollar amount to a specific project really boxes you in as a board. Well, what would be more appropriate, if I might recommend, would be to have, there's dollars set aside for this slate of projects, potentially, as opposed to X dollars for X project, because if it doesn't happen, then that money is just sitting there and we aren't using it on anything else.
There's clearly why it's called anticipated, and at which point we will use it for something else.
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
President Priner, and thank you for that, Kyle. So the amounts that I noted in their association with the broader funds, 60, 80, 95, et cetera, is just that. So this is how much is in that general area. So if it's Middle Rice Creek, Lower Rice Creek, those are associated with your Long Lake Said Basin and your Lock Lake Said Basin. What's going to happen there isn't definitive, but we do know we have accelerated sedimentation. We need to address it. These are the funds we've levied intending to address it. We've also pulled some of the funds with the transfers, some from the other ones that historically have just continued to grow, and assign them into the anticipation fund. So with the addition, I think, of the table that I referenced at the bottom, we'll keep it generalized and be able to share it.
I look forward to your future work product.
Very good.
Okay, go ahead, John, and then we're gonna talk.
Thank you, Madam President. I would say that this is a work in progress, and that we're learning as board members a little bit more about how this works. That's good. And so is the public. And so I'm fairly happy to see the color coding and the use of the terms 40% cash in reserve, restricted, committed, and such. I believe those definitions should be included right here on the chart someplace, not just in the policy, so people can read and understand what they mean. Also, it should be a definition in here of what these blank spaces are that are white, and that what the administrator has is the authority, or board, or both, to jockey these funds around. If you recall, a few months ago, we were requested to find $1 million. Boom, poof. And this doesn't really tell us how that was done in the future, if we do this in the future. And I think that's something that's important to have clarity on, because that's what this is all about, is clarity. And so with that. So I also would say that there needs to be references to what statute authority you're coming out of on some of these things. So when these definitions have particular statute authority, either it's the B chapter, the E chapter, or the D chapter. And, you know, for example, that makes a difference as to what kind of funding they're done and how it's collected. So then, so I just looked a little bit farther. I'm going to talk about page 32 in the very last paragraph. Many years I go round and round about the $200,000 estimate, and it never has been changed much, and I think it's really out of date. I don't think that's an average value of property, really. I think it really gives kind of a misperception. And why do I say that? Well, as you recall, last December when we finalized this year's tax budget, which was a 0.009% increase, I stood at the microphone and said, here's what my value of my property was, because I live in the Rice Creek Watershed District. In 2007, this is what the value of it is for 2022. My taxes at that time were $2,400 to $2,500, and that's all taxes, not just Rice Creek, let's be clear here. And that the current tax rate, the property hadn't reached the value back to what it was. I think in 2007 it was $329,000, and this year it was $298,900, but the taxes had got up 50% to near the $3,600 mark. So this year, when I look at this, I read this phrase in here about, let me see, it is likely be a moderate increase from 2022. So I happen to have my 2022 tax statement with me, and I also have inside of it the estimation that for 2023. They send you this. I'm sure all of you must have one of these from your counties too. I don't think Washington's unique. And on the bottom of it, it tells me what my property value is going to be, or estimated market value next year. And so it's been a miracle.
It went down?
It went up.
Oh, mine went down.
Yours went down. Well, congratulations.
My taxes
Mine went from $298,000
Mine went down.
to $359,300. That's a pretty sizable jump. That's like a $55,100 increase.
Yeah.
And a property that was approximately worth the year before $300,000, $50,000. That we're talking 20% increase here. Actuality, when you get down to figuring it out, I took the liberty then to take my taxes that I paid Rice Creek in 2022, which is $52.09. And I divided that by 98,900 to get a percentage there, and then I multiplied that by the 354,000, and so my new Rice Creek taxes, approximately, without any moderate tax increase yet, are going to be $61.84, more or less. That's an increase. And so that comes up to be about an 18.72 increase just in the market value alone. So I anticipate that mine isn't going to be unique. I think that many people's property values have gone up. I think the $200,000 is really estimated, isn't really providing clarity, isn't reality. I think that estimated property values, averages are much higher. I would say 300,000 is probably closer to it than these days.
I believe it was a stable.
Well, I just think that everybody, that's been the general usage. I think everybody's used 200,000 forever,
Well,
and I think they understand that.
and that's what I'm saying, forever is time's come to an end.
Yeah, but once you start changing, it starts getting real confusing if you're gonna start going by
Well-
real value and.
I'm not saying real value, but since we've used 200,000 forever, values have changed, and they have changed.
But it doesn't change anything. It's still the 200,000 is just a finite point.
Well,
to
let's use
as-
100,000, get it down to $15, I
No,
mean,
that's-
that's
No,
what I'm saying.
everybody takes a value of their house.
You could
The
take whatever.
200,000 is just a.
If you're going to put a figure out there, then it should be, have some reality to it. And otherwise, that's my point about it, and I'll leave it at that, about there. But I just thought I'd go through that exercise there. I don't know that we really need to have a tax increase. And the next thing I'd say about this is that since I have a market valuation, and everyone receives one of these, I'm certain, I would assume that the county office would have an estimated, be able to tell us what the Rice Creek market valuation is going to be based without any tax increase right now for the 2023. Because they've already set out what the market values are. So they can pretty well guess without any changes at this time, based on last year's tax rates, what the revenue we would receive is. And once you know that revenue, I think that that's an important thing to know before you start budgeting. Because I 18% increase in market value means I got an 18% increase already in my Rice Creek Watershed
No,
District
you,
tax.
no, you
No, you
don't.
don't.
No, you don't.
No, you don't, because
Wait a minute. Yes, I do, because I just went through the figures with you. I told you it went from $61, from $52 to $61. You make the subtraction, it comes out to 18.75
what
increase.
you forget is that you pay taxes based on your relative value of your house compared to the relative value of all the houses and all the properties in Washington County.
I pay $18.72% more next year than I do right now at the current rate than I did this year. That's fact. There's no relative business, none of my relatives have anything to do with this.
Well, you don't know that's what your value is gonna be next year either.
Well,
I know my value is estimated right now.
Estimated,
At this point. And so the estimated tax is going to be an 18.75% increase.
my estimated value went down, my taxes went up, because it's all, it's how they take all those pieces together, and it's my proportionate share.
And so if we
They
did,
determine
we
that.
went through and we worked your estimated value that went down
Yeah,
and took the percentage of what your tax was on your estimated value last year versus what your Rice Creek tax was, and got that percentage, multiplied it by your new estimated value, your taxes may actually have gone down to Rice Creek because there hasn't been any change at this time. That's true. But I'm saying that when you do the same procedure, mine have gone up, and I think while yours is a more unique situation, it can vary whether it's commercial property, agricultural property, or residential. But in my case, the residential prices, I think everybody's going to find, on average, are much higher than they were when we adopted
I'm
this
just saying that
200,000.
the valuation is only partially responsible.
And that's
for
why
your
you have to have
taxes.
a number
Right,
that you work from.
and that's why I think the 200,000, I think everybody knows if they have a $400,000 house, that they're not paying the value of 200,000. They know to double it.
Or
I mean,
more.
you know what I mean?
Actually goes up.
Right, I mean, it's obvious, the 200,000 is just a number to use.
Well, then maybe we
Easy
should
number.
stop using it.
Well, it's just an
Just,
easy number to
let's,
use.
why
It
use
doesn't-
any
Well,
number?
there is a number.
See, that's the point. Why use any number? I mean, if you're gonna just pick a number, let's pick 100,000. Or let's
That
pick
would work.
2 million.
That would work too. They just
Yeah.
multiply it
100,000 would work
That's what I
just
say.
fine.
The number really isn't,
Okay,
provides any
let's go. Nick had a
significant
comment. I want to go
information.
to him next.
President Priner, Board of Managers, I'll just note my understanding of the origin of $200,000. The assessor finds the median value of properties, and that was $200,000 back in the day. We have 4 different counties. Each one is going to have a different value. So at one point, they tried to come up with, this will be the number we use. I think the district uses it to illustrate trends in its impact on properties. So in 2017, the impact on that $200,000 property was $39.25. In 2022, it was $35.80, and we expect that it will be around $36 in 2023. So it is extremely complicated. I think it's good discussion. I'll leave it there.
Madam President,
Go ahead.
I don't think it's all that complicated because you write the check at the end of the year. And that's what's
Well, I
complicated.
do have a question for Manager Waller. You said you didn't think that we should go up, but in any conversations in discussing the budget, what did you propose to cut?
Well, I'm not sure that we have to cut the budget. I'm saying is when you're going to see that the market value is going to provide you with enough revenue that it'll meet your budget needs. And that's why I'm asking to suggest that we take a look before we make that decision about tax increases or decreases to find out what the estimated market revenue would be coming from these. Because the counties can tell you that at the current rate. They could tell you that.
I have a que-
President
Go ahead.
Priner, I'd ask Kyle to speak to that because I know he's been in communication with the counties. I don't know, that information is not available, as I understand it.
Where do I start? Madam President, no, the published tax rates by the counties, they come out maybe in the midsummer or early fall for the prior year after everything has been calculated and done. So there is no published tax rate for the Rice Creek Watershed District for any of the counties for 2023. They don't know that yet. There are estimated values out there. And I will just, without straying too far into this, the district sets its levy and the counties apportion that out. We don't just get a percentage that the counties collect for us. That's not how it works. Some managers have spoken to that a little bit. The only increase that we have would be the 2023 levy versus the 2022 levy, which I believe was estimated at around 5%.
Correct.
Increase in total levy. That's apportioned across the entire watershed, and the counties individually within their areas apportion that amongst their properties. So if everybody's property value in the county goes up by the same amount, then everyone has it's the same, that 5% increase for everybody. But that, we don't set our levy based on a micro scale per parcel. There's no way for us to do that math. The counties handle that for us on the backside. So with that, I'll leave it at that, and I would like to sit down.
Thank you, Ken. I have a question for our attorney. Since we've had the public hearing and we've had a workshop discussion here, how do we get this back out into the public, or should we reopen it or reschedule one? And if we're gonna add those bottom numbers with definition and explanation? I'm just wondering what the process would be.
Madam President, managers, you may certainly continue the public hearing to another date and provide in a further notice the additional information that's available that you're describing. Ultimately, when you act in your September meeting to adopt the budget and levy, you can also, if you wish, take in public comment at that time and ultimately then adopt your resolutions of adopting your budget and your levy. So you have flexibility.
Yeah, Madam President, Mr. Smith, as I understand our discussion today, we aren't proposing changes to the budget. We're just proposing how we might better explain our budget
Correct.
based on the purpose for us working these fund definitions. And therefore, I would agree with Mr. Smith that we're within that limitations. We're not we're not causing us to have to go back to step one.
Madam President, if I could just add, you certainly may, on the district website, post additional information providing, the details you've described, and have that available now, anytime anyone wants to check in, and then if they wish to comment further, then you'd have to arrange for further public comment.
Where's the board? Nick, go ahead.
President Preiner, just point of clarification. My understanding from our discussions, we'll add a second table, not within the budget document, but at the bottom of that one, identifying the allocation to 99 in its various subfunds. Look at the definitions of the various items that are noted there and put those in there with maybe an example, just as I presented it. I would agree with Manager Bradley that we're not changing the budget. In fact, this is not, I say this carefully, really about the budget, but rather our fund balance, which is another matter, and we're looking at the fund balance policy, and we can add that clarity so it's present there for the public. If we put it on our website, I think that adds some good clarity.
Okay, so then it wouldn't be a corrected version, it's a
Clarifying?
clarifying. Yeah,
clarification.
and that would get to where we need to go with this. Okay, go ahead.
So the sequencing here is we're going to have to make a motion to change the fund balance policy.
That's next, yep.
That doesn't impact the budget that we're talking about, but it does add that 99, the Fund 99 to future uses.
President Preiner, Manager Winan, the general fund balance policy is not the budget. And the budget
Right.
was presented for the public to say what they
Okay.
wished about it. So they can proceed independently. Obviously, we've brought the two together for our own understanding and hopefully clarity to all, including the public. And so the adoption of the fund balance policy will I don't want to say allow for that, because you could establish a fund anyways, and you can transfer funds anyways, but it gives us a frame on which we're hanging this and a unified understanding of the board and the way it proceeds through its work.
So if I could turn back to our fund policy for a moment here on page 37.
Yes.
Because I've now had a chance, while we were talking, to read the sentence you called to my attention earlier about the anticipation fund, because I was out looking to see what the anticipation fund was in here.
Yeah.
And that last paragraph before definitions reads, starting with the second sentence, for that purpose, the Board of Managers may establish a project anticipation or similar subfund within the implementation fund. So now I go look for implementation fund and I can't find it. Help me out.
Implementation fund, that's the one we previously referred to as the 509 fund. That statutory basis is for your projects and programs.
So should the 509, there is no 509 fund.
No, that's an antiquated, I'm sorry, President Preiner. 509 is an antiquated term. It had to do with the implementation, the legislation in 1982, I believe. And so implementation is correct for what we're doing. In other words, we're not only having a general fund to establish the district, if you will, but we will have projects and programs, and the district has the basis from which to create those subfunds.
Do we need to define, or should we define implementation fund within this policy?
And our implementation funds 30 through 99.
President Preiner, Board of Managers, I would say that 30 through 99 are all defined already. 35 information management. I hesitate to make the definition too restrictive, because in the future you may want to add additional sub-funds to those categories. It's generalized for the intended purpose. Ditch and creek maintenance is 80. 70 is regulatory.
So I'm happy if you strike within the implementation fund, but if you're going to have the implementation fund with a capital I and a capital F,
Right.
this old
That
guy
makes sense.
needs that defined.
Okay.
That makes sense.
President Preiner, if I might, because I know I'm going to end up asking Louis about this in the future. Louis, if you could, I don't think it'd be problematic to add implementation fund. And if you could, maybe a history, a little bit on the 509 and the distinction between the two. Thank you.
Madam President, managers, originally when the watershed law was passed, there was a provision for creating a general or administrative fund, and it was statutorily restricted in a dollar amount. Later in 1982, the legislature provided for metro watershed districts to levy for the development and implementation of their water management plans. And that was Session Laws 1982, Chapter 509. And so watershed districts in the metro area all adopted the language of calling this the 509 Fund. And it was the Planning and Implementation Fund. That language is now found in Minnesota Statutes, Chapter 103B, .241, which is a section that authorizes a levy for the development of your plan and your implementation of the plan through projects and programs. And so I agree that it's not really useful anymore to refer to the 509 fund, but your implementation fund. So
So the implementation fund is
for projects and
established
programs.
for projects authorized by our water management plan.
Yes,
So there's your definition.
yes,
We should add that.
I think we can.
That would be perfect. Can I add one question? What you brought up earlier, I had one question on what Kyle said. Let me get that. What was that called? Unassigned? Oh, anticipation, that's what it was. If we put in individual items like you were talking, I know that doesn't lock us into those items, but questioning if it's on there the whole year as like we're gonna spend it on that, compared to what Kyle was talking about, having a list for that whole.
I think he solved that problem for us.
Did you solve that? I
President
wanna make sure I
Reiner,
understand that.
Manager Wagaman, what we intend to do is put a second table on
Yeah.
the page 30, which would indicate where the funds will be transferred into 99. And those are related to the other funds in your budget, such as 80 and 60.
Yeah.
We're not going to specify the projects.
Okay.
Although, number one, because we want to be careful about what we're defining the solutions are to accelerated sedimentation and Middle Rice Creek. But we know something will be done, and so that those categories will cover it, I would say.
Thank you.
Let's move forward. Well, you need a resolution or just a second?
Do you want to bring it back with the new language, or do you want us to approve it with the anticipation of that new language?
President Preiner, Manager Bradley, my preference would be to approve it with the anticipation of the new language. I think the definition of implementation fund will be easy enough.
So,
Madam President, before we
Yeah.
begin, let me just check here, Manager Bradley. you and I both like to look at things after they've done. We don't, anticipation's not one of our interests, really like to see reality. So I just wanted to say, is that okay with you before we start here? Otherwise,
Yeah,
I don't have any problem bringing it back. I mean,
Because Lewis took me down to the source for implementation funds, so I know that we aren't creating anything, all we're doing is adopting an existing usage. I just want that existing usage to be included here, so I'm happy.
What I'd like to see is the actual reference to where that usage definition comes from when we use these funds, and, you know, the particular chapter. As Lewis, I don't need the whole history, I just need to know that it's in 103B.
0.241.
241 there, and that's an important thing. It gives people the opportunity to take a look and find out what goes on. It's just like 103E is for the ditches, and what particular, those kind of things.
It could be as simple, I would suggest, Mr. Smith, is saying implementation fund plans as authorized by 103B.241,
Yeah.
close parens, if that works.
Sure.
Okay.
There you go.
So we now
Thank
have,
you.
we
That-
now have
Yeah,
edits.
I'd like to see that also with
So that would be.
the D and the B chapter 2, where it goes under those things.
So, anyway, so,
That'd be-
Madam President, with that, I would move to adopt the amended fund balance policy, which, as we've discussed this morning, will include a definition of the implementation fund authorized by Minnesota Statute 103B.241.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
So does that include maybe language of similar for the D and E portions of which we use for tax collection?
President
Not-
Briner,
Go ahead.
I'll note that the general fund balance isn't, we could add one for that, I suspect, definition for that. 103E, the district doesn't derive funds from 103E. So I don't think that would be necessary addition.
Well, the district does derive funds from 103E. That's how we fix the drainage ditches, and that's what's called number 80 there. So when we have a
You
fund-
tax everyone for those. You don't assess the benefited property owners, Madam President,
we assess the benefited property owners at times. Yes, we do.
within the WMDs.
The WMDs, and that's where do you keep that?
President-
Those ditches are defined under number 80, aren't they?
President Priner, the district's WMD, Water Management District projects are defined under 103D. This is the difference between your levy and project fund. 103E, certainly, we see our obligations for maintenance of the public drainage system, but that is not how we fund them, and the district specifically did this. So it did not have to go through the, what would have been a very complicated process of redefinition of benefits, as I understand it.
This is, Madam President, I see this as a definition of our fund balance. What Manager Wall is talking about relates to our budget aspect.
Right.
And we've crossed the line now. And I only reached into the one because we use a specific identified term, and we're trying to find a shorthand way to address that identified term.
Madam President, those specific terms are referred to here in the definitions under this general fund balance, aren't they? Like restricted, committed, et cetera. And so restricted funding is what we use when we start talking about the drainage systems under 80. And, but, this is getting to be
Okay.
difficult.
We have a motion and a second. You want to call a vote, or all in favor?
Aye.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
So, Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
before we move on, I just want some clarity about, so we've looked at the budget, and what we've done is reviewed this, we've had a public meeting. Next meeting, we adopt the budget formally, which then we again see it at Truth and Taxation. I mean, Truth and Taxation is our formal time that the budget is then adopted. Give me let's
President,
sequence this.
yes, President Preiner, your Manager Wynett, Board of Managers, at your meeting in September, you will certify the budget, and we will be allowed to disperse the information to all 4 of our counties for them to put it on the levy. In December, your one meeting in December, you have the Truth and Taxation meeting, informational meeting, at which the district can consider any comments from the public again if they would like to, and you can only bring your budget down at that point.
Thank you. So, Madam Chair, I am unable to be at the meeting in 2 weeks where this budget will be certified, but I just want to go on record that I am certainly in favor of what has been presented to us in the budget to date.
Okay, so thank you for your comments.
Thank you for giving us someone to blame.
Who's ever out of town gets the blame.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna go to page 40, Nick, Washington County Judicial, oh, this is revised, 10/22/32 task order.
Yes, President Preiner, Board of Managers, we have before you the Houston Engineering Task Order for Anoka County Ditch 10/22/32. You'll recall this was previously on the board agenda. We pulled it to our August workshop where we had some good discussion, and it has been revised by Houston Engineering. It has curtailed the time frame to the end of the year. It has the cost has gone up ever so slightly, $1,500, I believe. And that is for the additional comment that the board made to include consideration of the, I'll say, the permitted condition against the ASIC condition. So with that, I think we've answered the concerns raised by the managers, and we're ready for consideration of the task order.
Madam Chair, I would move to approve Houston's Task Order 2022-013 ACD 10/22/32 Maintenance Alternatives Task Order, I guess. Maintenance Alternatives.
Need a second?
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Do a roll call. Manager Waller?
Yes.
Manager Wynett?
Yes.
Manager Bradley?
Yes.
Manager Waitman?
Yes.
And Manager Preiner? Yes, motion passes. Okay. Anoka Washington Judicial Ditch 3 Repair Report Addendum.
Yes. President Preiner, Board of Managers, Anoka Washington Judicial Ditch 3, the district has investigated, completed a repair report, and undertaken the first phase of that project. Here, the district engineer has provided an addendum to their report, which allows your consideration to set the public hearing, which we intend for September 28th at 6:30 in the city of Hugo.
Okay, I believe we have a resolution for this, right?
President Preiner, that is correct. It's a
On page 50.
resolution.
Yep.
Correct. So you'll be accepting the amendment to the report and allow us to set the public hearing.
Have a motion?
Madam President, I'll move Resolution 2022-17, Rice Creek Watershed District Board of Managers findings and order receiving Phase 2 repair report addendum and directing further proceedings for the repair of Anoka, Washington Judicial Ditch Number 3. And the order reads, A, Board of Managers receives and files engineer's repair report addendum for AWJD 3 and its recommendation to implement Phase 2 repair. B, the Board of Managers further directs its administrator and staff upon completion of required coordination, if any, to notice a hearing for Wednesday, September 28th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. at the Hugo City Council Chambers at 14669 Fitzgerald Avenue North, Hugo, Minnesota. Notice for said hearing shall be given by mail at least 10 days before the hearing to the owners of property and political subdivisions likely to be affected by repair. In the repair report, all owners of property traversed by and adjacent to the AWJD 3 Phase 2 repair report and by publication to all other interested parties. C, the Board of Managers directs its administrator to coordinate and take all subsequent actions necessary for preparation of the repair in a manner consistent and compliant with existing law. The Board reserves to itself, however, all subsequent actions required by law to proceed upon Board approval.
Madam Chair, I'd second that.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Roll call. Manager Waller?
Yes.
Manager Wynant?
Yes.
Manager Bradley?
Yes.
Manager Wageman?
Yes.
Manager Priner, yes. Motion passes. Solicitation of professional services.
President Priner, Board of Managers, next on the agenda is, as you said, solicitation of professional services for the years 2023 and 2024. Minnesota statute for watershed districts requires that at least every 2 years you solicit interests for legal, professional, and technical consultant services before retaining those services. It is that time for the district. You'll see the notice on page 55 in the packet. We would suggest a September 23rd deadline for submittals. You'll see that in the notice. We try to keep those to 4 pages or less and provide you with the information you need for consideration. And then we would look at those at the October 10th workshop.
Madam President, I move to authorize the administrator to publish in the district's official newspaper, post on the district's website, and distribute to its current consultants the solicitation of interest notice for professional services.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Check register.
Madam President, I move to approve the check register dated August 22nd, 2022 in the amount of $662,389.20 prepared by Redpath and Company.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, items for discussion. Staff reports. Have you had any questions on the staff reports? Any questions, comments?
Once again, they just keep clicking along.
All right.
A lot of work.
September calendar, page 98.
Madam President, can I ask about the
Go ahead.
ACD 25? We've got Wednesday, September 19th written down below. September 19th is a Monday. Which is it going to be?
It will be Wednesday, September 21st.
21st.
Yes.
Okay.
Teresa caught that as well.
Of course she did. Thank you, Teresa.
Any other comments, questions on the calendar? Anything else? Okay, administrator updates.
Yes, beyond the ACD 25 correction there, I'll note that I've been working with Washington Conservation District looking for their interim inspection services for our regulatory program while one of our staff is out of the office. And we're looking at November 1st for our city-county partner meeting. I intend that to be virtual. It seems very convenient for our folks, so that's Tuesday, November 1st. It's kind of... You should know that MAUD Executive Director Emily Javins has stepped down from her position. Perhaps you've already heard that. And then welcome Kendra Sommerfeld to the
Kendra?
district staff. That's it.
What do you know about Javins? I mean, what is
When was that effective, yeah?
Friday.
That was
already? She's gone.
President Preiner. That was effective August 15th. When she stepped down, there was no further explanation in the announcement.
Well, that's too bad.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is.
It really is. Actually, she was supposed to work on taking over Ray's spot for the legislative stuff too. So now they're gonna be,
Now they're
Trouble.
double hit.
yeah, now he's gonna
Well-
retire and she's gonna be gone.
They do have an assistant, I believe they hired, so I imagine it's going to be some continuity there. It's not a hole that has to be.
Yeah, I would imagine. Okay, manager's update, Manager Waller.
I'm going to up to Grand Forks to attend a 3-day meeting up there. Other than that, not much that I'm aware of.
Okay, Manager Wyden.
I too am heading to Grand Forks, so that should be most interesting. Manager Bradley and I went to an open house last Saturday about TCAP, which was very informative, and I guess I'll send this around. We were able to get in a van and cruise the site that they're proposing for development, and it's much larger than I first thought.
Yeah, it is large back there.
I've seen it.
You've seen it.
And then the other thing is on Friday, Nick and I, no, Friday, yeah, Nick and I went to see the dewatering site for the Long Lake Sediment Basin, and if you can talk them into it. Once again, it's the eyes when you actually see someplace. It's much larger than even he can explain, so.
Manager Bradley.
Manager Wynett stole my thunder. Of course, the big issue is how many homes and apartments they're going to build. And as far as we could tell, we were talking to a very energetic person who was in favor of housing fairness. They haven't got that solved yet, so watch that space. Until they get that solved, I don't know how they go forward. Ramsey County obviously is trying to put pressure on them by holding this event, I think. It's a huge amount of space with a huge amount of potential.
Yep.
And when it happens, a huge opportunity for us also. The prior Ramsey County person who was in charge, Blake Hoffarber, he used to be very energized and interested in what we could do for him. I haven't heard much since he left. on that.
Go ahead.
Are they discussing, the density of the housing
Yes.
is the issue?
Yes.
Yeah, okay,
How many families are you going to put in there?
right.
And we're working on finding a date to speak with the Ramsey County Commissioners, so I would hope that at least some update from them
No problem.
on it would be helpful too.
Manager
I
Wyden.
have nothing.
And I have nothing either, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Could you